Okay, I thought I'd shoot a short video on my Super Single project as far along as it is right now. Just a quick walk around. A few things to explain. So for years I had this MZ Scorpion frame sitting up in the garage. Didn't really have a use for it, so kept staring at it whenever I was out looking at my other bikes, and finally decided, well, I might as well do something with it because I can't fathom anyone else would want to purchase one, especially one that I've already made some modifications to. So I did some eBay searching, found a TT600 engine. This is it here. It turned out to be basically garbage. The seller was a bit of a crook, claimed it was still running, and when I took it apart, you know, transmission gears were broken and there's a crack in the case and the whole 9 yards. So I ended up using it as a gutted mock-up. So this engine here is basically empty. I left a few things in based on past experience. This is obviously the main output shaft. Put that there, or left it in so I could line up the sprockets when I went to center the engine in the frame, or at least line up the sprockets. Also left the Kickstarter shaft in on the other side in order to see how that would clear. So anyway, that's one engine. I did pick up another one that looks surprisingly good, which is nice for an old engine. They're both TT600 engines in like 83, 84, so we're already looking at 30-year-old lumps here. So I'm waiting on a couple of spacers to be built. So I have this one here, which the swing arm has already been centered in the frame, and now the engine needs to be centered in the swing arm, or at least have both counter shaft sprockets and rear sprocket line up. So I'm just waiting on this spacer here. It's a RG125 swing arm, so never sold in North America. I picked it off of eBay UK and got this part of both sides of the swing arm machined out so I could use nice proper needle bearings, and then a shaft here, 17mm swing arm pivot shaft, and I had to bore out that bit of the case a bit too in order to accept it. Years ago when I had this swing arm and a DRZ 400 Supermoto swing arm, I compared the two, and the rear swing arm piece is identical in width. So then I was doing some more researching and found out that a lot of guys had put KTM Supermoto wheels into a DRZ 400, or Supermoto wheels I should say, mainly because they're a bit cheaper. So 20mm axle, a few spacers machined, and now I've got some nice wide spoked wheels. Can't take tubeless tires, but still it takes some decent rubber. Proper width, I think that's 5.5 inches there. DRZ 400 rear caliper, and actually some Yoshimura swing arm buttons here that actually work pretty well. This is an R6 shock from an earlier model, like a 03, 04 I think. I've mounted it upside down, but I got a proper guy with a good TIG welder to weld this up for me here. He did both the bottom and the top up here, nice and sturdy, similar to an ER6 or a Aprilia Shiver. I need a slightly heavier spring, I believe, but even just sitting on it, I don't have too much sag, so maybe even adjusting some preload some more, the spring might work out alright. Developed my own rear subframe. The top rail is from a Muzz Scorpion, but then I cut off everything else and fabricated these brackets here in order to support both my weight as well as I'm going to be mounting the muffler up through here. So you'll see the headers coming out there. We're going to reposition that so that the rear exhaust comes out right underneath, a nice undertail exhaust. I got a Hindle from CBR 600, I think, brand new titanium, for around 120 bucks, so you can't go wrong with that deal, and it should be light and nice and quiet. Swinging around to the front, R6 forks right way up, not upside down ones, that's a bit overkill. And again, the KTM front wheel, nice captured spacers in the front, so if I ever do take the wheel off, they won't go flying. Big oversized KTM front rotor. and then an Aprilia radial master cylinder, and then an adapter bracket from Taiwan, I believe. And aside from a few spacers that I still need to get finished, it mounts up nice. I've got a nice radial single front brake, which should be plenty. R1 Brembo 16mm master cylinder with some cheap Chinese levers, shorties. They're throwaways basically, but the master cylinder works well, and that should provide plenty of braking. Cagivo Mito tank. I've used one of these before in another project. They're nice. Pivots back here, and then rubber strap secures it at the front. And then Pro Circuit headers just for an XT600. And then, yeah, this will be repositioned here to go up underneath. Saving my pennies for a set of flat slide carbs there. I might as well get some proper ones rather than monkey around with some old ones that need repair, rebuild, or try to adapt something else. And I think that's all we've got so far. The seat will be removable. I'm going to attach it with Velcro. And the aluminum pan is a bit overkill. I might try to replicate it later on in carbon fiber. I've done some playing around with that, but we'll have to see. Right now that's plenty strong enough. And on this side, because of some clearance issues with the shock, I'm going to be developing a front master cylinder, thumb operated rear brake that'll fit right there. And I've got a way to clamp a master cylinder from a Moto Guzzi of all things to the fork with some leverage action there, and I'll be able to use it there. So I've had thumb brakes before. They're a nice solution to keep things cleared up and out of the way. They're obscenely expensive, I think, for what you're getting, and I think I can develop something myself. And over here is the good TT600 engine. These ones, 83, 84s, came with 6-volt systems, but I did find a 12-volt stator. So I've put that in place, and when I took off the side cover here, the internals were nice and clean, like not a bunch of residue or junk in there. So it is a 30-plus-year-old engine, but it seems to be in good shape. It'll need to be rebuilt, I think, if I'm going to get serious about riding this on the track with any speed and aggression. But it should be fun to play around with, that's for sure. So let's see, next steps then would be back to the bike, get the spacers finished, machined, lined everything up. I got to weld on some tabs for the lower engine mount, and get those carbs, and then take it back to my welding expert friend with the TIG welder, and he will fashion up a cool underseat exhaust for me. Hopefully the oil tank will be from an SZR660, again another bike that was never sold anywhere near North America, so I found one on eBay Germany. It actually attaches to the case itself and sits right there. So that'll be my oil supply. All the lines will line up perfectly, which is nice. I don't have to monkey around with AN6 or that sort of thing, oil lines, and yeah, it should be good. And I'm leaving the kickstand tab on just in case I decide to put some lights on this bad boy. Anyway, big thanks to the guys at Performance Bikes Forum for some help with the suspension linkage calculations, but aside from a stronger spring, I think this will work. Oh yeah, my favorite bit here, this can be adjusted for ride height. So machined threaded piece in there, welded in, lock nut. This is from, I don't know, some modern super sport bike, and as you thread that out you can raise or lower the ride height. That's about it, and I'll post some more updates soon.